começando o programa Infertilidade em Foco. E hoje teremos um programa um pouquinho diferente. Nós não vamos apresentar uma palestra. Nós teremos um debate sobre um importante tema, que é sobre a infertilidade masculina. Infertilidade masculina é uma condição do sistema reprodutor masculino que o impede de gerar um bebê. Fácil assim? Isso é apenas um conceito, porque a infertilidade masculina é algo muito complexo. Falar sobre infertilidade masculina é um tema bem complexo, porque não são só dados. Aliás, os dados são inconclusivos, porque nenhum homem vai procurar ajuda médica porque tem medo, tem preconceito, porque mexe com o ego, mexe com a masculinidade. O homem foi feito o perfeito, o primeiro filho tem que ser homem, você tem que ser o melhor para satisfazer a parceira. Então tem a questão emocional, a questão fisiológica. A área que trata os estudos sobre infertilidade masculina tanto faz o diagnóstico como o tratamento é a andrologia. Então hoje o nosso debate será com o melhor do mundo, o pai da andrologia, professor Dr. Zavos. É um prazer tê-lo novamente no nosso programa.
Good morning, Dr. Soren, and it is a pleasure to be with you this morning. I am delighted to be able to answer some of your questions, which, of course, I find is very interesting, and I think that your audience will be more than happy to receive my feedback on those.
Há vários fatores que contribuem para a infertilidade masculina. E eu quero perguntar ao melhor do mundo, professor Dr. Zavos, quais as etapas que contribuem para a infertilidade masculina?
I've been treating infertility, and specifically male infertility, for the last almost 40 years. And I must tell you that when I began doing what I do now, it was a puzzle for many professionals in the world to find out that the male does have problems. So let's start with that. Males, according to the way that they're looking at themselves and some of their doctors that are treating them, and specifically gynecologists and obstetricians and REIs and that kind of thing, don't know much about the male, and therefore they tend to ignore it. However, the male contributes up to 50% of the infertility difficulties of the couple, and it goes to show that the male needs to be evaluated simultaneously as the female and the male, the couple that is, walk into an infertility specialist office and want to be evaluated accordingly. For some people, the male is born to be perfect. And of course, my job for the last 40 years have been to show the imperfections in the male, and you can understand the difficulties that anybody would have to show the so-called imperfections in the male. But let's talk about the specifics about those imperfections. What does the male expect to see when it visits an infertility specialist, an andrologist? First, the male usually starts by visiting a healthcare individual and complains or shows or shares with them their difficulty of impregnating his wife. It may require a physical examination, check for abnormalities, perform a semen analysis, and then putting all the history of the male together, along with the various tests that the male will undergo, we develop a scheme and a plan of action for that male.
Como o homem é avaliado em sua primeira visita ao andrologista?
Now, how is male being evaluated during his first visit to an andrologist? And I emphasize that you go to an andrologist, not a gynecologist, because gynecologists specialize in the female aspect of reproductive medicine, where the andrologist is a specialist that specializes and evaluates andros, which andros in Greek means the male, the man, where the gynecologist evaluates the gyne aspect. Gyneka in Greek means woman. So you cannot take a Ferrari to a Volkswagen dealer and expect that dealer to fix it. A Ferrari goes to a Ferrari dealership and a Ferrari expert. And the same applies to the treatment of male and female infertility.
Para o homem, o paciente chegar a procurar ajuda com um andrologista é porque já passou por algum especialista de reprodução assistida humana e foi diagnosticado que o problema seria com o homem, seria a infertilidade masculina. E a partir daí que se procura um andrologista para fazer a primeira consulta e tentar ver a melhor forma de tratamento antes de fazer algum procedimento de fertilização in vitro. Com a infertilidade masculina, o homem se sente como se não fosse mais o protagonista da sua própria vida sexual. Doutor, professor Zavos, quais são as principais dificuldades de tratamento de infertilidade masculina nos dias atuais?
How difficult is it to establish the treatment of male infertility? Well, treating male infertility can be quite challenging. Factors like hormonal imbalances, genetic issues, environmental influences complicate the overall diagnosis. Additionally, the emotional impact of the male being questioned as far as his manhood probably creates most of the problem. I tend to believe, after the many years of my experience with treatment of male infertility, is that the male's problems could be 50% in his head and 50% between his legs. And therefore, we need to treat both simultaneously if we are to develop the modalities in order to treat infertility in the male.
Uma das causas de infertilidade masculina é a disfunção erétil, que também é um assunto bem complexo. Às vezes a esposa, a namorada, está esperando o marido em casa e na hora do ato sexual não acontece nada porque ocorre a disfunção erétil. E ela às vezes pensa mil coisas, achando que o problema pode ser com ela, mas na verdade eles têm que entender que sexo não é só questão robótica. Envolve vários fatores emocionais e funcionais. Então tem que ser devidamente tratado. A disfunção erétil, seja ela causada por problemas emocionais ou fisiológicos, tem que ser tratada devidamente. Doutor, professor Zavos, quais as tendências modernas para o tratamento da disfunção erétil?
Some of the modern trends that we aim to correct are, among others, erectile dysfunction. Erectile dysfunction, by definition, is the inability of the male to have a normal erection and a normal intercourse with his female partner. And because of that, the male tends to lose its confidence level, so to speak, and inability to perform sexually, which of course, as you know, the male and his sexuality and his ability to have an erection and intercourse normal enables him to deliver the male gametes, the sperm, and impregnate his wife. And if the delivery system is not working, therefore, those difficulties are really magnified and make the male a little bit more impotent and more unable to help with the overall problem of the couple's ability to establish a pregnancy. How do we treat erectile dysfunction? Well, there are a lot of drugs out there that treat erectile dysfunction if that is the problem and can be treated as such. And erectile dysfunction can be caused by psychogenic origin type problems in the head, problems with blood circulation to the area, and a number of different other factors that can contribute to that. And today we're using such factors or such modalities to treat erectile dysfunction, among others, regenerative medicine. We use stem cells, we use lifestyle changes, exercise, and anything that can improve the status of the male and get his confidence level to where it needs to be in order to perform sexually.
Fale sobre o transplante de espermatogônias específicas para aumentar as possibilidades de obter a espermatogênese.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the use of stem cells in regenerative medicine for treatment of various spermatogenic dysfunctions. Most of the people that come to me for those kinds of problems are either severely oligospermic, meaning don't have enough sperm counts, or they don't have any sperm at all. Azoospermia, the complete absence of sperm in the ejaculate. And therefore, we aim to evaluate the problem first properly. Without proper diagnosis of the problem, you can understand that you cannot treat the problem as such. Therefore, somebody that treats those kinds of deficiencies must know enough about spermatogenesis, sperm and testicular dynamics, and the overall histology, macro and micro anatomy of the testes, in order for them to understand how the deficiencies appear, the overall designation of those difficulties, and then overall plan of action that can treat those difficulties if we can identify them properly. Now, I have been involved in the treatment of azoospermia using stem cells, and our experience have been associated with various doctors in various different locations throughout the world, from anywhere from India to Pakistan, in the Middle East, and so on and so forth. And some of those doctors that I've been associated with have not had a great deal of experience in this field, and therefore, again, the lack of experience brings about the lack of proper diagnosis of the problem and the proper treatment. Unless we know what the problem is and what the difficulty is, we cannot apply modalities such as stem cell perfusion of the testes to overcome the difficulties of the male as far as oligospermia and azoospermia. Of specific spermatogonia, which are the testes producing gonadal cells that are found in the basement membrane of the seminiferous tubules. And if we were to go in to transplant those gonadal genetic germinal cells, then again, we're having difficulty doing that if there is somebody else's spermatogonia and we transplant him into another man. If he has already his own spermatogonia, I don't see the need for for such transplantation of taking place. And this area is really very very controversial, and has to be approached in a very, very careful manner.
O transplante autógeno é uma forma de tratamento para a criptorquídea. Qual a sua opinião sobre o transplante testicular?
Now, a lot of people are really thinking about, let's say, can we transplant a testicle in a man that really has difficulties producing sperm, and his testes are either hypogonadal, meaning that they are small in size, or they don't have the ability to produce sperm. And anytime that we talk about transplanting the male or female organs that produce the gametes, in this particular case, the testes, if we transplant somebody else's testicle into another man, then automatically that man is going to be producing, assuming that we're successful, is going to be producing the sperm cells of another man's genetic makeup, the genome, and not his own sperm. And therefore, we really have to think twice about doing that, ethically, morally, and otherwise. We have to get the approval and understanding by the male that receives those testicles as such, in order for us to be able to perform such a procedure. The other procedures that have been tried experimentally so far are transplantation.
Casais com fator grave de infertilidade recorrem ao tratamento por ICSI, seja por oligospermia ou azospermia, para terem seus próprios filhos biológicos. O autotransplante por células-tronco espermagoniais tem sido um tratamento promissor. Como é feito esse tratamento por células-tronco?
Now, what are some of the things that we need to be concerned about with doing stem cell perfusions in a man that lacks the ability to perform or spermatogenesis and produce sperm? This area, again, is very new, and unless we know what the difficulty is, then we're not going to be able to treat that problem. I am working now with groups of scientists and clinicians in India, in Pakistan, in Turkey, and possibly starting something new in Rio de Janeiro. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to bring in new ideas and concepts in this area in order for us to be able to help an oligospermic, an azoospermic, or a problematic male that lacks the ability to produce sperm for the purpose of causing adequate conception and subsequent pregnancy in his partner. Now, how do the various ARTs are used today? ARTs, meaning assisted reproductive technologies, are aiming to help the deficient male. And originally we thought that the IVF, the use of injections of sperm into the oocyte during IVF, which is called intracytoplasmic sperm injection, abbreviated as ICSI, that can treat an awful lot of problems, but not all the problems. Okay, you can do ICSI if the man does not have sperm. You cannot do ICSI if the man's sperm is deficient, severely abnormal, what we call teratospermia, and so on and so forth. So if the man does not have sperm, we can perform procedures such as the TESA, where we aspirate sperm from the man's testicle. We identify those sperm and inject those sperm cells after they are identified and they're normal into the woman's eggs at the time of IVF in order to cause adequate conception and subsequent fertilization in the pregnancy. Again, those are treatments that have their assets and they have their limitations.
O sistema CRISPR é uma ferramenta poderosa que pode modificar a cadeia de DNA, modificando o genossom. Associado ao Cas9, que é um tipo de enzima que funciona como se fosse uma tesoura, ela corta de forma correta as duas fitas de DNA, facilitando a manipulação genética. Qual a sua opinião sobre o sistema proteína 9 associada à repartição palindrônica curta agrupada a CRISPR-Cas9, que permite a retificação genômica dos seres humanos?
As a last item that I need to discuss today is the use of CRISPR technology to correct genetic abnormalities or genetic mutations in the male that obviously cause problems with his ability to produce sperm or produce normal sperm that carry normal genome, normal genetic makeup of the DNA that is necessary to cause the adequate conception and the pregnancy that we're looking for. So CRISPR technology is abbreviated as CRISPR-Cas9 kind of a system, enables the technologist here to take the DNA molecule, slice it, find out where the base, that particular genomic abnormality exists, and correct it by putting in normal bases, normal DNA fractions in order to overcome those difficulties. Now you can understand when you work at the molecular level of the DNA, that is not an easy assignment. And therefore, this kind of technology can have a number of different applications to people that carry a number of different genetic deficiencies, from thalassemia to liver diseases, you name it. There's so many. As far as the male correction of the male using CRISPR technology, that technology is limited at the moment when considering that the male carries a very dynamic system meaning that is very system that changes on a daily basis. The male produces anywhere between 30 to 40 million sperm cells on a daily basis. The daily sperm production ability of the male is 30 to 40 million sperm cells per day. And it is very difficult to really harness that kind of potential, modify it genetically, and apply it properly in order to cause adequate conception. A lot of people are saying to me, how could out of 40 million sperm cells that he produces every day, can find 2 or 3 or 4 normal sperm to use via ICSI to impregnate his wife? And that is really a $64,000 question. That is a very difficult question to answer because, very simply, you do not know which cell carries the normal DNA because we cannot see the DNA from the outside. We need to do DNA fragmentation or DNA analysis of the sperm for each sperm in order to be able to pinpoint those difficulties and correct them properly. Therefore, as you see, the area of male reproductive medicine is very challenging. And the most challenge that I have is to bring in the male and treat the male for its infertilities because males are born to be perfect. At least that's what their mother and their father tell their son when he's born. Son, you're perfect. And a lot of doctors also associate perfection of the male by his ability to have sex. Having sex and delivering normal sperm to your female partner is not similar and is not homogeneous and is not the same thing. Having sex is obviously having intercourse that enables the pleasure aspect of it to be sort of sensed and used as a means via which the male and the female can come together and have sex and have the pleasure. However, having sex and delivering normal sperm at the time of intercourse is an entirely different ballgame. And therefore, those are things that need to be differentiated between the two and be able to sense all that, put that together, and correct the male's ability to produce sperm, normal sperm, healthy sperm, to cause adequate conception in the female, and also enable the establishment and onset of pregnancy that has to be carried on for 9 months by the female and give birth to a normal child. I thank you.
Estou terminando o programa Infertilidade em Foco. Quero agradecer a todos os telespectadores do Brasil e do mundo, porque o programa Infertilidade em Foco é um programa global que conta com os melhores especialistas de infertilidade do mundo. E hoje eu quero agradecer ao nosso convidado, diretamente dos Estados Unidos, professor Dr. Zavos. Ele que é o pai da andrologia e contribuiu imensamente com o seu conhecimento sobre infertilidade masculina. Ele que conta com uma equipe de cientistas na Índia, Paquistão, no Brasil, que eu faço parte desse programa, desse projeto, no Instituto de Andrologia da América.